Hello guys, welcome to my class. So this is our first wrap-up video for the discussion. I'm going to be looking at that way a little bit because I have made some notes. I haven't memorized anything. This is completely impromptu. Good morning everyone. It's Wednesday, May 23rd, and I wanted to talk a little bit about our discussion that we had on discussion 1A, the one about the 3 clips that we saw. Number one, you're doing fabulously. I'm really happy with the way that you're dealing with things. I love the way that you are interacting. I love the comments. I love the replies. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what you talked about. And I wanted to add a few things. I wanted to stress a few things that you said that I really want to make sure you guys keep in mind as we write our first paper. Number one, you are really astute and you are observing really well, and as a teacher, I appreciate that because that means your brains are on, and I'm really happy. In terms of the formal issues, I love how you talked about music, how you talked about sound, how you talked about angles, light, all of that stuff, the fast pace of the editing in Sex and the City, for example, the futuristic feel that the shots at the beginning of Blade Runner sort of give us. I also love that you talked about content, about the sort of what we're actually seeing in it. Issues of class, issues of race, that was wonderful. Talking about ethnicity, talking about utopia, about sort of idealized notions of the city, and dystopia, about totally negative and sort of end-of-the-world images of the city. Talking about context, talking about history, sort of being aware that West Side Story is a movie from the 1960s, being aware that Blade Runner is sci-fi and therefore is sort of slightly futuristic, in this case very futuristic, although 2019 is going to be next year, so it's going to be a little interesting. One of the things that I really admired about your observations and your discussions was very much about talking about the things that we see and the things that we don't see. That was really, really good. I love that. What is present and what is absent in terms of the images of the city. And that's something that's going to be really useful later on in the class. So keep it up. That's awesome. I want you to notice something. In Sex and the City, it was very identifiably New York. We got the Brooklyn Bridge and the Chrysler Building. We got the World Trade Center because it was before 2001. While in LA, when we're in Blade Runner, we have to be told that it's LA. It's just Los Angeles, 2019. And then we see this world that, as many of you said, sort of like, it doesn't look like what we think of when we think of LA. No palm trees, no sunny landscape, nobody's in sunglasses, it's dark, it's raining, everybody sort of looks pissed off, everybody's angry. It's a very different image of what we see, but we only know it's LA because they tell us it's LA. There's no visual cues like in Sex and the City. It's identifiably New York, and in the other one it's not. So keep that in mind, because in the future that's going to be really interesting, because in some places it's a city, and we don't know what city it is. And in others, it's LA, it's New York, it's Chicago. And that's something for you to keep in mind. I want to add something that you guys are mentioning, but I wanted to give you the vocabulary to talk about this. And guys, this is very primitive, so I'm just getting little pieces of paper and putting them in front of the screen because I want you to be able to spell this word right. There's a German philosopher and an observer of cities. His name is Walter Benjamin. He lived in the 1920s in Berlin, later moved to Paris. And he has this word, it's a French word, and I'm going to put it on the screen. It's a flaneur, or a flaneur. This is somebody who sort of creates a social distance from the city that they live in. And I think Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City, in the title credits, like you very intelligently pointed out, is always looking around, but very secure of herself. And the social distance, in a way, separates her from the city. One of the really interesting things about the title credits is that she's looking at the city, but she's not really in the city. She is somebody who is constantly looking, but is never sort of active. She doesn't interact with anybody. She doesn't interact with the city until the water splashes her, gets her dress dirty, and she's like, what the hell? And so this is one of the really interesting things that you also mentioned, that the title credits are creating this sort of like, whoa, it's New York City. And then she gets splashed with water and it's like, oh dear, it's New York City. But the first part of the title credit, she's very much a flaneur. And if we can use correct French, because she's a woman, it would be a flaneuse. If you can't pronounce these words, don't worry, it's an online class, I'm not going to hear your voice. But these two terms, flaneur for a man, flaneuse for a woman, it's a really important word that you might be able to use in the future, because a lot of characters in film and television create this social distance of being in the city but not being in the city. And Carrie Bradshaw is trying that. The water reminds her that she is in the city, but in many ways, most of the title credits is about her seeing the city without really being sort of integrated into it. What I have done with the discussion is I have created, I basically put bolds on things that I found really intriguing and really interesting and really useful for your paper. And so before you go and write the paper that I'm going to assign, that's already assigned for the end of the week, go back to the discussion, read your post and your replies, and also read others, and sort of look at those bolds because they might be useful for what you're going to be doing. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Shoot me an email, and I will try to respond as quickly as I can. I am having a blast already, and we're already on the second day. Bye. Oh, I don't know how to do this.